Coming up on 5 Minute News. Sickened Trump halts COVID-19 relief talks until after the election. Nearly 40 nations criticize China's human rights policies. And FDA publishes vaccine guidelines opposed by White House. It's Wednesday, October 7. I'm Anthony Davis. Donald Trump abandoned COVID-19 relief talks on Tuesday, saying they won't resume until after the election. A strategic move that came as the chairman of the Federal Reserve said that further fiscal intervention is needed to prevent the economy from spiraling downward. Trump tweeted that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was not negotiating in good faith and said he'd asked Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to direct all his focus before the election into confirming his U.S. Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett. Trump's move came immediately after he spoke with top GOP leaders in Congress who had been warily watching talks between Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and Pelosi. Many Senate Republicans had signaled they would not be willing to go along with any stimulus legislation that topped $1 trillion, and GOP aides had been privately dismissive of the prospects for a deal. Last week, the White House said it was backing a $400 per week pandemic jobless benefit and dangled the possibility of a COVID-19 relief bill of $1.6 trillion. Pelosi had spoken with Mnuchin earlier Tuesday. After Trump's tweet spiking the negotiations, Pelosi said Trump was unwilling to crush the virus and refused to give real help to poor children, the unemployed, and America's hard-working families. Trump broke off talks after Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell warned earlier on Tuesday that the economic recovery remains fragile 7 months into the coronavirus pandemic without further economic stimulus. Stocks dropped suddenly on Wall Street after Trump ordered a stop to negotiations. Rarely spoken about, America's poorest have been hit the hardest by COVID-19, and Trump's critics have said he sees the poor as a parasitic drain on the country's resources. With so many out of work, this decision to postpone further help may hit many of his own supporters the hardest. Nearly 40 mainly Western countries have criticized China's treatment of minority groups, especially in Xinjiang and Tibet, and expressed grave concern at the impact of its new national security law on human rights in Hong Kong. The United States, many European countries, Japan and others called on China to allow unfettered access to Xinjiang for independent observers, including UN Human Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet, and to urgently refrain from detaining members of other minorities. The 39 countries also urged China, in a joint statement read at a meeting of the General Assembly's Human Rights Committee, to uphold autonomy, rights and freedoms in Hong Kong and to respect the independence of the Hong Kong judiciary. Their statement, read by Germany's UN ambassador, was immediately followed by a statement from Pakistan on behalf of 55 countries opposing interference in China's affairs when it comes to Hong Kong. It said the territory is part of China, and the national security law ensures China's one country, two systems policy on Hong Kong is enduring. Cuba followed with a statement on behalf of 45 countries supporting China's counter-terrorism and de-radicalization measures in Xinjiang. It said measures taken by China in response to threats of terrorism and extremism were carried out within the law to safeguard the human rights of all ethnic groups in the province. The rival statements spotlight tensions between China and the West over human rights. Those tensions have escalated, especially between the United States and China, and include other issues, including responsibility for the COVID-19 pandemic, trade, and Beijing's actions in the South China Sea. The predominantly Western statement said its 39 signatories shared the concerns expressed by 50 independent UN human rights experts in an extraordinary letter in June, which they urged the international community to take all appropriate measures to monitor China and act collectively and decisively to ensure its government respects human rights. The Food and Drug Administration released updated safety standards on Tuesday for makers of COVID-19 vaccines after the White House blocked their formal release, the latest political tug-of-war between the Trump administration and the government's public health scientists. In the new guidelines posted on its website, the FDA said vaccine makers should follow trial participants for at least 2 months to rule out safety issues before seeking emergency approval. That requirement would almost certainly preclude the introduction of a vaccine before November 3rd. Donald Trump has repeatedly insisted a vaccine could be authorized before Election Day, even though top government scientists working on the effort has said that timeline is very unlikely. On Monday, Trump said vaccines are coming momentarily in a video recorded after he returned to the White House. Former FDA officials have warned that public perception that a vaccine was being rushed out for political reasons could derail efforts to vaccinate millions of Americans. A senior administration official confirmed on Monday that the White House had blocked the FDA's plans to formally publish the safety guidelines based on the 2-month data requirement, arguing there was no clinical or medical reason for it. But on Tuesday, the FDA posted the guidance on the agency's website, making clear that regulators plan to impose the safety standards for any vaccine seeking an expedited path to market. The White House's attempt to block the guidance follows a string of instances in which the Trump administration has undercut its own medical experts working to combat the pandemic. The FDA has been attempting to shore up public confidence in the vaccine review process for weeks, vowing that career scientists, not politicians, will decide if the shots are safe and effective. You can subscribe to 5-Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5-Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Please subscribe, rate and review us at 5minute.news. 5-Minute News is an independent production covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering unbiased, verified and truthful world news daily.